everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Thank you for joining us. It's 11 a.m., so we're going to go ahead and get started. Today's webinar is Work Smarter, Feel Better. And as we get going, thank you, Connie. We're going to talk about ergonomic strategies for a healthier workplace. And we always like to thank our partners because with our partners, we're able to get messages and get information out to more people. So we'd like to thank TSSA, Tri-State Safety Association, the MPMA, Minnesota Precision Manufacturing Association, the South Central Safety Association, the Building Industry Association of the Red River Valley, Associated Builders and Contractors of Minnesota and North Dakota, Northern Region Association of Safety Professionals, the Build Connection, and Lake Area Manufacturers Alliance. Thank you for your partnership in helping us get the message out about safety. OECS, we are your total safety solution. So we provide consulting services for small and mid-sized manufacturers, construction companies, and we're here to help you. So if you have questions, we've got a variety of different abilities and would love to hear from you and how we can help. We've got information on the screen about our Twin Cities corporate office and our Fargo office as well. So if anything comes up, want to talk about anything, please let us know. We are here to help. Your involvement is important. Please use the chat feature to ask questions. If it works, we'll try to let our panelists have that question as they're speaking. And so we'll certainly ask those questions. We'll also have time at the end for questions and answers. We do not share our presentation, the PowerPoint specifically. However, this presentation will be available on our website and we will get it on our YouTube channel as well. So look for it there if you want to share it with your coworkers, share it with other people. You know it is and will be available on our website. Hopefully within 24 hours, we do our best to get it up as quickly as possible. In this webinar, we'll be really focusing about the Minnesota OSHA ergonomic standards, and then we'll have some information, I believe, on a few other opportunities. Our panelists are going to talk about and help us understand ergonomics and musculoskeletal disorders, identifying solutions to help prevent employee risk exposures, and then recognizing the benefits of conducting ergonomic risk assessments. So those are our outcomes that we're hoping you will get out of this webinar. And those learning outcomes are connected to our continuing education units because this webinar has been approved for 0.1 CEUs. And anyone who is interested can have a CEU awarded by filling out our learning assessment and an evaluation. That information will be sent out after the webinar. You'll just need to fill out those 2 surveys, and then after we will provide a certificate of completion. I am Jennifer Erickson, so if you have any questions about our CEUs or courses or anything that you might have questions about there, my email is on the screen, and please reach out and ask any questions that you might have. And with that, I am ready to turn it over to our speakers. So Connie and Julie, take it away.
All right. Good morning. My name is Julie Thatcher, and I am an OECS Safety Associate. I've been here about 2.5 years and have 20+ years experience in environment, health, and safety for a multitude of different industries. And so look forward to presenting today with you with the ergonomic standards, and hopefully you get some tips and tricks on how to prevent injury exposures. Connie?
Yeah, my name is Connie Van Rolt. I am STC, so Safety Training Center lead. I work primarily in our safety training center that we have here on site, and you can attend on site or virtual. And we really take deeper dives in. So this is a small dive into ergonomics, really working to ensure people have more information. But we do have further courses that are coming up next year in the training center as well. So I've been in human resources and safety for about 15 years.
Great. So we just actually starting out the webinar here, we want to make sure we get a definition of ergonomics. And basically ergonomics is the science of fitting the job to the worker by designing job tasks, workspaces, tools, and equipment to be more efficient and less physically stressful.
So Julie, what does that mean? Like, I hear people, this sounds really expensive.
No, it's not actually. What we want to do is make sure that we design job tasks to the individual's capabilities and abilities to prevent any ergonomic and or injury risk exposures. So it can be, we could do low cost, low technical solutions, but first, like we'll be talking later on in the webinar, we just need to assess the workplace and then identify solutions to help prevent it in the first place.
Yeah, I always thought of ergonomics kind of like a buzzword. People say it all the time, but what does it actually mean? This seems to be pretty simple on how we could take a look at it.
Absolutely. And so currently, there are actually ergonomic standards for 4 different states here, that there's a mandatory ergonomic standard, and that would be Washington, Oregon, California, and Minnesota. And I want to say that Minnesota is actually the gold standard with regard to ergonomic programs and injury reduction. And then basically, if in fact you don't have a mandated program, if you were to be inspected by OSHA, the Regulatory Compliance Occupational Safety and Health Administration, actually they would maybe cite you for not actually adhering to injury prevention methods from an ergonomic standpoint. If you started seeing trends in your workers' compensation claims where you were having strains and sprains and you didn't do anything about that, they could cite you under the OSHA General Duty Clause, excuse me. So just want to make sure that you are aware that even if it's mandated in certain states, we might want to make sure that we have everybody in a program, that they're identifying their ergonomic risk exposures and putting those programs in place.
So it sounds to me like every company in every state has a responsibility, just like we do with other hazards, to make sure people are safe under this umbrella of ergonomics.
Absolutely, yes.
Gotcha.
And so from the Minnesota ergonomic standpoint, it will employ, so the standard means that why can I not talk today? I am sorry. Why can't an operating in Minnesota meet all the regulatory standards? It would be 3 different industries: warehouse distribution centers, meat and poultry processing plants, and healthcare facilities. So in the warehouse distribution and meat and poultry processing, it's 100 or more employees at a single site. For healthcare facilities, because they've seen large trends in ergonomic risk exposures and injuries, that is anyone who works in a hospital, surgical center, nursing home, or what we refer to on the slide right now, the National American Industrial Classification System Code. And we can talk more about that later. But that's basically those folks that fit in to that industry category or classification that would have to mandatorily comply with that standard. Okay, from Minnesota OSHA program, they are very diligent and very particular on what those ergonomic program requirements include. That would be a written ergonomic plan, a risk assessment process in place, educating employees or employee training, having an early reporting system if employees are having signs and symptoms of ergonomic risk exposures or musculoskeletal disorders. We'll talk more about that here coming up. Then obviously we want to let employees know that they have to report their signs and symptoms early. Employee involvement in the program. We want to get their feedback on what challenges they face from a physical standpoint and get their buy-in on anything we're going to put in place to reduce those exposures. What control measures are we going to put in place after we do an assessment to reduce those risk exposures and find a solution so that nobody gets hurt? This is also applicable in most industries, like we covered the ones that are mandatory for ergonomic programs, but there are also any type of industry that does physical labor, such as construction and or any facility projects that involve physicality. You want to make sure that we do that. And then we're going to annually review the program and determine if we missed anything, if we didn't identify the proper solution initially, and where we need to do what we need to do to move the program forward.
Man, I can really tell why Minnesota is called the gold standard. With needing to do all of these things, that seems like, well, honestly, it seems like every other hazard we have.
Absolutely. Yes, it's one of
kind of
the,
take and look at that from that perspective.
you got it. Yes, absolutely. We want to make sure that we identify what the hazard exposures are, put systems in place to prevent them, and then obviously address anything that goes on from a future aspect, that even a new process, we would want to look at that as well
Awesome.
before we implement.
Perfect. So we have a poll question for you, just so that we can understand. So which type of injury do you think costs your organization more? Slips, trips, or falls, or musculoskeletal disorders? We'll give it a couple seconds here to see how you answer.
We still have some people answering.
Perfect.
Okay, it looks like we've stopped getting answers. So I'm going to share the results.
It looks like 75% say musculoskeletal injuries, 25% say slips, trips, and falls, which is very interesting because especially those of you in construction, I think most people know that falls is one of the fatal four. So very interesting that musculoskeletal injuries are occurring more than that. And that does line up with what we found as well.
Yes, because hidden costs of musculoskeletal disorders, the Bureau of Labor Statistics says that musculoskeletal disorders account for over 50% of all work injuries, and they're the number one cause of disabling injuries in the United States.
Yeah, I read that it's 2 times the amount of fall injuries. And we don't talk about these quite as often because it seems like these can kind of go under the radar a bit. People talk about, oh, my back hurts or oh, my elbow hurts. And we sometimes say, oh, it's all right, suck it up. But then years later, we have a big problem because now we're going to have to pay for that injury. So the average musculoskeletal disorder claim is about 15,000 to 4,000 in direct costs, which means that out of pocket right away, you're looking at 15 to 40,000. But indirect costs, which can come from not being able to meet your deadlines, having to have people on overtime, a number of other things, the morale of your team can be 3 to 5 times higher. The total cost of musculoskeletal disorders in the United States is over $45 billion. So
Yikes.
this seems like something that we should try to get a handle on. So what are musculoskeletal disorders? Really, all what it is, it's a weakening or damage of the musculoskeletal system. And due to that damage, it causes us problems with muscles and tendons, our vertebrae if it's in the back, our discs, and our ligaments, which all together can cause us to get into those really expensive doctor appointments. Do you think that this could be prevented, Julie?
Absolutely. Yes, if we identify what the issue is and we implement solutions that are consistent with reducing that exposure, it absolutely, but it is early intervention. That is
Yeah.
the key.
So, what are the body parts that are most at risk? This is something that I hear about all the time, like, oh, my back does hurt. And this is one of the main body parts. We know that back disorders cause a high percentage of disabilities in the United States. So, it is the most common musculoskeletal disorder, and it is caused by improper lifting techniques. If I'm sitting or standing too long, if I have awkward postures, repetitive bending or twisting, pushing or pulling heavy items. And I'm sure that we've all heard somebody complain about their back. And it's how we take those first complaints. I think that's going to help us. What's another one that we should be aware of if somebody is complaining about?
Neck or cervical strains actually can occur from poor posture. If you haven't heard, there is a term called text neck from people constantly looking down at phones and iPads and laptops and that kind of thing, computer screens. So it does in cradling the phone. If you were to answer your phone, the old days, actually, we would have a phone on our desks and that kind of thing. But if you cradle your phone in your neck, between your neck and your head, when you hold it there, that causes neck strain and pain, and also tension, fatigue, and headaches. all contribute to that. So yes, we want to make sure that we hold devices or we put our laptop or computer screens up at a consistent, good level so that we're not forward bending, texting or texting down with your neck down underneath. Plus, you're not paying attention to where you're walking. So it could be a secondary injury as well.
Gotcha. Another one is shoulders. I think a lot of us have heard over the years, you know, we don't want to spend most of our time reaching overhead. We don't have our strength there. So if we're carrying heavy loads, or if we have static arm movements where the work that we're doing is causing our arms to stay in the same spot all of the time, these can cause shoulder injuries over a period of time typically. So something else to be aware of.
And think one of the most common would be wrist and hands. We hear a lot about that. I think most people understand and have heard the term carpal tunnel syndrome, and that's where the median nerves runs through the palm of your hand and into your wrist. But it's usually from repetitive motions, typing, gripping tools, or actually wearing gloves that might be too big or too small. Too big is going to cost you to do forceful gripping. Too small is going to constrict the blood flow and oxygen in your hand. So we want to avoid those forceful exertions. Another thing would be using vibratory tools. There are padded gloves that can help from that vibration going into your hand and creating issues as well. So, you know, injury examples would be carpal tunnel syndrome, trigger finger, tendonitis, that kind of thing. And like Connie mentioned before, a lot of times we just consider that part of the job, right? My hands hurt, but that's okay. At the end of the day, I can recover and sleep, get back up the next day and start it over again. And if you still have that pain and it's not causing consistent pain or debilitating pain, you just kind of accept it. But this is what we want to make sure we make a point today is that reporting symptoms early is the key to success with an ergonomics program.
Right. And I think most of the employees that, well, I know that I've ever talked to would much rather wear a pair of gloves or do something different than have to go through surgery where they don't make money, they're not able to provide for their family the same way that they were before. So I think this is something that we could easily come to a solution for. Another area is elbows. So for elbows, it's going to be that, again, repeated arm movements, prolonged elbow flexation. So really looking at how are you moving your arms and how often are you moving your arms during the time frame of which you're doing work. Another piece is the same as hands is going to be that vibration. So if you are using vibrating tools or equipment, what does that look like? And again, these things are things that if you catch them early, people can recover from them.
And another common injury that we see is hips and knees, okay, from prolonged or static postures, prolonged standing, kneeling, squatting, jumping from equipment is a no-no. That's one of those things that you can get away with it. It's kind of like how much risk am I willing to take? But if you get away with something and you don't have pain or issues, you try it again until you don't get away with it. So actually anything from jumping off of equipment, forklifts, scissor lifts, that kind of thing. Another thing is obviously we know that things can radiate. So if we have a problem with one area and we overcompensate in another area, that can cause additional injuries, and proper footwear with proper support is ideal for making sure that we can stand for a long period of time, especially if we're on concrete surfaces and that kind of thing. There's good science and proper footwear.
Yeah, and that gets us right into the ankles and feet, which I think you already covered. So fantastic.
Sorry about
No,
that. No,
you're good. So yeah, it's really just taking a look at all of our body parts and how they're working every day. We know that if we can keep our body in a neutral position, which really is defined as our muscles are at a resting length, our joints are in a mid-range, and we have minimal stress on our body, that is when we are going to have the least amount of occurrence of musculoskeletal disorder, but we are also the strongest. We also can do more work when we are in that position rather than some of the other positions that we will talk about. So the more we can do to look at workstations to get people working in these neutral positions, the better it is for all of us, productivity, but also that employee injury level goes down. This is what we see often is people having awkward postures. And this is described as muscles or joints moving toward extreme ranges. So again, I might be lifting my hands above my head to do my work, and I can't be doing that all day long. My body is not designed to do that. So those awkward postures are going to increase my ability, or I'm going to get tired and I'm going to have a potential of getting injured. So taking a look and really slowing down and looking at how people are working. We also want to look at a static posture. So if I have to hold my body in the same position, it does have an impact on my body. So having a more dynamic work area where my body does move around is going to help me more than staying in one posture or one situation all of the time. The other thing that we need to look at, the last of this area, is really looking at that repetitive stress or that repetitive work that we are doing. Repetitive is often what I saw in manufacturing, is that people are moving their body in the same way or similar ways all throughout an 8-hour shift. And being able to break some of that up over their period of time is going to help them use different muscles of their body so that they don't have this prolonged repetition. If you do have a high stress or a high repetitive stress type position, you're going to need to look at some additional items people should be doing, such as stretching, just to help get their body warmed up and keep it warm for that type of work. We really want to look at people working in their power zone. Our power zone is going to be between our shoulders and our knees, primarily if we are standing, and keeping the items that we are lifting or moving as close to our body as possible. That is really our power zone. So when we are setting up our job stations, we want to think about, where am I doing the work? Is it above my head? Do I have to raise my arms? Do I have to squat? And what do I look like when I'm actually doing this work? I'm the most strong and will be able to do the most effective work in that power zone, shoulders to my knees, keeping it close. The other piece that you want to take a look at is, what does your desk look like, or what do workstations where you do have a desk type workstation, and how are we setting that up? Very similar to knowing that our power zone is in that, it's going to be in our shoulders to our midsection basically, but knowing that we will not be able to reach things that are far out on the table. So how are we setting our stations up to begin with, to reduce this? And like we saw in the first slide, it's really needs to fit the person. Lots of times I go into workstation or work areas or to different companies, and they have an adjustable table, but it was adjusted to somebody that worked there 3 years ago. That person no longer works there, and we've never come back to look at it again. So you may already have the tools in place. We just aren't taking a look at it for who's actually doing the work now.
And I think we have to remember how we lift matters, okay? When we look at the slide, the risk of injury here, I bet a lot of folks don't know, if you're standing up straight with your knees locked, it puts 80 pounds of pressure on your lower back. If we add weight to that and we actually go outside a neutral posture where we have our arms away from our bodies and that kind of thing, as you can see, as we gradually go up to the wrist there on the left from low to high, I think the most critical slide here is saying, if you're bent over lifting 20 pounds and your arms are lifted or are positioned 20 inches away from your low back, you're going to put 635 pounds of stress or pressure or force on your lower back. Do we think we're going to be subject to back injuries if we're doing that on a continual basis?
I would think so.
Yes, agree. All right, and then principles for injury prevention as far as workstations where we're sitting for a long period of time. I think a lot of folks learned this during COVID because you went from office work to your home and your workstation setup wasn't ideal. I know people who worked from couches and beds and kitchen tables and that kind of thing. So on the left side is obviously the correct posture for sitting at a workstation. And this is individual, just like we say that all of this, what's interesting about ergonomics though, is it's got to be tailored to the individual, their capabilities, and everything. But there are some strategic things that we can do for everyone as far as sitting. You start with a chair. So you sit in the chair, you make sure that we have that lower lumbar support that's going in the natural curve of your back so that you can sit. Your legs are at 90 degrees, your elbows are at 90 degrees close to your body. And you're typing that kind of that slide shows actually not the best posture for your wrist because you want to make it neutral and you don't want to rest your wrist on any hard surface or compress those nerves. So we want to make sure that one critical point is vision and how far do we put our computer screens away from us? Well, it depends. If you have vision correction or bifocals or trifocals, you don't want to make sure, kind of like talking about texting, right? And the cervical strain on that. We want to make sure we set that computer screen about an arm's length away and that we actually position it. Usually it's about the top of the screen is like forehead height, but depending on your prescription or corrective lenses, you might have to lower that a little bit so that you're not tilting your head back on a continual basis. Over on the right, pretty obvious, all of those postures or positions put you at risk of injury. Okay, as your neck strains forward and it's not consistent with your shoulders and level with your shoulders, we put ourselves at risk there. Poor posture, no lumbar support for the natural curvature. Feet are not flat on the floor. I've seen people that have short legs. They put their feet on casters or they sit on one leg where they have the bent move. So we want to make sure that people understand there are correct ways for people who are working at a static, consistent workstation that they should pay attention to. A lot of times I hear that people, they say, I sit all day, I want to have a stand up, sit to stand station, okay, where we want to do that. So here's where we're looking at different postures again. On the left there, workstation's too high. The person's position too far away from the work that's being done. The wrist is bent and not in a neutral posture. Second slide, we're looking at neck strain, pressure on the back, and bent wrist. So obviously on the right-hand side, green is good. We have a workstation where we're in a neutral posture, head is over the shoulders, standing straight. We talked about that static pressure or how much force we have on our back. You can see that that person slightly has their knees bent. Okay, that's what you want to do. And then periodically, if we had a foot rest, we would kind of use a foot rest and alternate our feet at that desk. And we don't want to sit all day and we don't want to stand all day. So just like the term says, sit to stand, you do each one until you feel fatigue and then you alternate.
Mm-hmm. And another piece is if you see these out on a concrete floor, using anti-fatigue mats can help with that standing as well. Sometimes you don't have the ability to sit, so what else can you do? And hopefully that you can move around throughout the day as well, so you're not just standing there. Another thing that we have to look at is what are the tools and equipment that we are using? A lot of times we're like, oh, well, this is the only tool we have, or this is the equipment. Well, those do wear out over time. So when we go to purchase the next tool, maybe we look at those ergonomic tools that are going to work better in our hands, that we're not going to have. Injuries from using a tool. I can tell you, you can buy a lot of tools for what a carpal tunnel injury is going to cost you. So we want to make sure we're thinking about those pieces. The other thing is we want to make sure if we do have heavier tools that we are using, that we use a counterweight to take off some of that weight of that tool so that somebody isn't having to hold up a 20-pound tool all day, that we have a piece in place to help take that pressure off.
Yes, and I actually, when we're speaking about that, I've seen a lot of folks that have heavy power tools and that kind of thing. They will actually install a tool positioner directly above that person's head where they can grab that tool at a neutral posture and not have to worry about the weight of the tool.
Right.
And it's taking that stress off. Or grips that we can put on a tool that will increase the ability for you to safely use that tool.
Yeah, good points. Thank you. Often I will hear, well, everybody just needs to get a stretching program and this is going to work for everyone. I would love to tell you that stretching and rest breaks are going to work for everyone, and it will work if you implement it and make it happen for sure. But there may be other things that you're not taking a look at yet that might help more for the specific situations that you're in. Just implementing a stretching situation or stretching and rest breaks is a good solution, but it's often the solution that we go to without really even understanding the hazard. So I think we need to spend more time looking at what is the hazard.
Or can we put people at risk when they stretch?
Right. That's true.
Are they holding their breath? Are we doing
Mhm.
it right? To just hand somebody a sheet of stretching exercises isn't going to ensure that we're getting the benefit from that.
Right. That's very true. Here's another poll question. So has your company done an ergonomic assessment on all your most physical or injury prone positions? So please take a couple minutes here or a minute to answer the question.
We still have answers coming in. All right, looks like we've gotten everyone who's going to answering. I'll share the results.
So it looks like 36% of you have and 64% of you have not. I think that's pretty accurate to what we see out in the field as well. It does seem overwhelming, I think, and um, to take a look at that. Good news is we're going to give you some hints and tips to be able to hopefully take some of that pressure off. So what are the benefits of conducting an ergo assessment? Really, at the end of the day, it's going to help ensure employees can come to work every day. It's going to reduce that strain, that fatigue, that injury risk. It does improve employees' job satisfaction and their comfort, which improves productivity and quality of work. I know that most of us would understand that it will lower your workers' compensation costs, and help meet your OSHA requirements if you have requirements, but we all do. And really, this is just taking a look at why do we do hazard recognition and then implement controls to ensure our people are safe doing this. This is one of the most expensive injuries that we have, and sometimes it feels like the hardest to get information about. And that's really due to the traditional approach that we've always had available to us to do this. So in the past, the traditional approach to ergonomic assessments, and it's still the approach today, is to do some manual scoring. So manual scoring really is going to take a look at the different body areas that you have. So the first one on the screen is a RULA employee assessment, and that's just looking at your rapid upper limb assessment. So it's looking at how do you move your arms? How do you move your elbows? How do you move your wrists? And really taking a look at that upper body. And we need to pay attention to every movement that a person is making during this process, which sometimes, I'm going to tell you, I think sometimes we miss something. What do you think?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yes, we're looking at the whole person.
Right. Another area or another type of assessment that is done is a REBA, which is an entire body assessment. So when we do a REBA assessment, we are taking a look head to toe on this body. And again, pretty sure we're going to miss something or high probability. There's the NIOSH lifting equation that can help us determine how much pounds can this person lift safely. And then there's an RSI that really focuses on the hand, the wrist, and focused on that physical movement of the hand and the wrist. These have been time consuming and really difficult to get 100% accurate information out of. So you can have people come in and do it, see how you're working today. It might be different. I can tell you from my experience, people work different when they're being watched than they do when they think they're not being watched. So it is a really good tool, really good method to be able to objectively look at something. It's just difficult because we're humans doing this.
And OECS has a tool that we use, a software that we use, and it actually takes that physical piece of it of doing the measurements and spending all that time in the old school way of identifying or doing hazard or risk assessments here. So what we will do is we'll take a video of the person doing the job, and you'll see kind of the stratification outlined in, it's supposed to be yellow and green. Green is a neutral posture, okay? That yellow or orange color is going to be a riskier posture. And then if it turns red, it's going to be a high risk. So we basically, we use an AI tool. It tracks the body angles and actually the joint functions there so that it can identify what those risk exposures are. And then it'll assign it a score that is in line with that Reba NIOSH score. That's all calculated, technical, research, scientific help, and then it will identify and provide an output on where we need to focus our attention and change the type of work tasks that we're doing to put ourselves back into a more neutral posture.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've heard about, and we've done this quite a few times or with quite a few different clients, is the fact that their employees get pretty quick feedback, but they also like the privacy of it. So we can blank out the face, we can blank out the area in which they're in, and really just focus on that skeleton looking body to be able to take a look at what they're doing.
Exactly. And the nice thing about that, just like Connie said, sometimes I've taken, if you have intellectual property or you have proprietary information, we can blur out the background. We can blur out the face of the individual for privacy, but needless to say, we want to plan this accordingly and be strategic on how we plan an ergonomic assessment so that we educate the employee on what the process is used for. We want them to feel comfortable. Like you say, they know they're being assessed, so now they're going to try to maintain a proper posture.
Mhm.
So we want to make sure, but we want them to do that and watch that cycle for a period of time, because I've had people where I've taken a quick video or just a picture of them and they say, "No, I feel good. I'm right." And you show them, like you said, in that
Mhm.
immediate feedback. Once we take that video, we can provide immediate feedback to the employee. Or if we miss something, say they walked around the corner and that wasn't something that they normally do to pick up tools or go to another bench or something there and grab some materials or something. Or I've seen people where they store things on the floor, which we never should do, where they're bending over. So we want to capture that full body to make sure we're getting the most accurate assessment. Okay, and how this tool works basically, like I said, we identify if we're doing the upper body from the waist up or the entire body. And what it will do is it will give that stratification. So it'll do a 3D overlay on those joints of the entire body and give you that red, yellow, or green stratification, where the red obviously is bad. It's going to be a more strenuous or stressful posture. The awkward position would be highlighted in yellow, and then green is going to be neutral. And that's exactly in this picture what we want somebody to do. Right there is a neutral posture.
So let's take a look at how Danny did. So I'm sure most people aren't moving around a binder. However, they're probably doing work moving their body in a similar way. And the cool part about this is you're getting instant feedback. You can take a look and see how somebody is being assessed right in front of your eyes. And we're not measuring, we're not, I mean, the camera is helping us see everything that maybe there would be things that we would miss as we could get distracted looking at other things.
Or the old traditional way. We
Mhm.
can measure something and do something, but there's nothing more powerful than a picture. We say a picture is 1,000 words. This is that example where we're seeing that stratification of neutral postures. And as he does, awkward posturing away from the body, overhead, you can see where that stratification changes and what we need to work on.
Right.
And then how this tool works is once we get that, we can download and we actually have a really nice risk report that we can, an assessment report there where it will tell you what type of assessment that you did, how many subjects or individuals that you did the assessment for. It could be 1 to 4 folks. And then we don't want to do too long of a video there, you want to do a cycle of what somebody's production cycle is, or watch a couple cycles there. And then you can do multiple videos. And the nice thing is it tells you it's an initial assessment. What we can do is do an initial assessment and then implement ergonomic solutions and then do another follow-up assessment to see if that made any change. And that's immediate responsive time.
Right.
All right. And it doesn't have to always be expensive resolutions there. So here is the risk report. It goes in more detail. It'll tell for each part of the body that was assessed what that risk posture is, and if it's low, medium, or high risk. And then we also provide information in the notes section that those are the possible potential solutions that you could implement to reduce those exposures going forward. Some of them are no money at all.
Right. Like this is the video that we just watched, and it's immediate, can be done today, is move closer to the counter before lifting or placing the box. I think those are things that we could probably get done straight away.
Yes, or if you had something where somebody's resting their arm or their forearm, hand, wrist on a sharp surface where they're compressing those nerves and creating a risk exposure for carpal tunnel, we could put insulation on that or some padding on that,
Mhm.
right? Or move their chair up and move them closer to the workstation where their arms are resting at 90 degrees close to the body, but resting on the surface and not putting people at risk.
Yeah, I think that this helps us really understand what the ergonomic situation is, and then we can look at how we implement from there. So I think, this is taking a real look at the hazard.
And then here's another one. This is it kind of goes through all of the dynamics of the old process and how the measurements work, but it's all within this tool. It does it. But just in case the tool isn't, just like everything else in AI, it has to be double checked and verified.
Right.
Okay. Because if we saw something different than what the tool saw, we actually can adjust that report accordingly. So it doesn't, like I said, this will give you the risk scores on the bottom for each body part during that process. So this is just another nice visual tool that will tell people what the risk level is.
Right. And this matches up with the video, so you can kind of see at what points this is, a person is doing these types of movements, which is stuff we miss sometimes.
Yes, and here's a good example, but from doing the NIOSH lifting equation worksheet. We won't go into great detail. It's a lot of information. It's more technical. Some people want this information, which is fine, but this is showing all the measurements that we would do to reduce lifting exposures.
Julie and Connie, does this software take into account twisting? Like, can you see that on the reports and on the body?
Yes. Yes, it takes in that consideration. We may, depending on if there's items or manufacturing equipment or something in front of that, that's where we can actually manually input that information if we see that as well to make sure it's included in the report. Good question. And then here is how another thing about Danny, right? Okay, Danny is one of our coworkers here that was so gracious to let us do an ergonomic assessment on him. But basically, that bridges the gap between the theory, like I said, the old thing, and the practice and feedback that we get. We get that instant feedback, okay, and it turns the task into micro learning moments. So, say if we had 4 individuals on one production line, we could videotape each person, or if we had more than one, like I said, 1 up to 4 people, we could do each part of that process to know what the risk is in each part. Like on a conveyor or on a production line, we could do each piece of those.
Awesome.
And as far as job specific guidance, we talked a little bit about ergonomic tools here. We want to tailor any solutions and that kind of thing. We could tailor it to restocking, patient handling, meat processing, poultry processing. But we want to make sure the most important piece is the worker buy-in, because we can provide all kinds of pretty reports and assessment, and solutions and assessments to the person, but we want them to implement that change. And so the way to encourage that is to create the initial assessment, implement the solutions, do a follow-up assessment, and then show them how much less stress they're putting on their body when they do that technique properly.
Yeah, and I was at a client doing one of these, and the employee said, "I'm just so happy that you said don't move your head like that." But instead, you could show me a video of me moving my head in a posture that was going to get me hurt. So I didn't believe I was doing that until the video showed me I was doing that.
Yes,
So I
exactly.
think that it gets beyond the please bend your knees or the poster we hang up to say, work smart, not hard, or smarter, not harder. This is actually going to take a look at the individual tasks that they're doing
Mm.
and look at how they're doing it and give you real true feedback on how you can make that better.
And the nice thing about shooting these videos, and like I say, being respectful to the privacy of the individual and or the company, is that basically it's instant feedback, but we could also use this for future training.
Hmm.
So if we had new hire employees or we have other people doing that task and we're training them, very nice tool to be able to pull up instantly and include in the training.
Right. So what's emerging? What's coming out of this AI world that we keep seeing and understanding? Really, what we find from the ergonomics perspective is that by using a tool like this or other tools similar, you're seeing a 50 to 75% reduction in musculoskeletal injuries. That is a huge cost savings to employers by a 20 to 60% drop in workers' comp costs, and productivity increasing. And that is all just keeping our bodies in neutral positions, because when we work in neutral positions, we're really in our power zone. I think most of our employees would want to come to work every day. So having that lost work days and light duty restrictions, I can tell you my life of HR, nobody likes to do light duty jobs. They want to be doing their real work. In turn, this helps you with your employee satisfaction and will improve your quality. And these aren't things that I'm just telling you, they're actually documented truths of what the industry is seeing at this point.
And another comment, just I want to make, we are not going into great detail. You can contact our offices to get additional information, but Minnesota OSHA also has an ergonomic grant program. So that means that if we have a project that we do this assessment on and we want to implement solutions that aren't free of charge, that we would actually apply for grant funding to support and supplement any funding for ergonomic improvements. So Minnesota will go up to a $10,000 match for that. So it's kind of nice. They'll match you dollar for dollar up to 10 grand for improvements such as ergonomic matting, okay, tool positioners, tools, different things like that. So, and also North Dakota has a plan as well, and that's based off of your workers' compensation premium amount and how much you would get for that. We work with an outside company to assist in the ergonomic assessment process, but both valuable tools. If we think we need to get a capital expenditure, we want to invest in that grant program and support that. It's also a good thing for safety committees. They can get credit for that. If they recommend a project, we get a grant program. It matches dollar for dollar. We invest that time, we get those tools and implement them, and they're successful. That's a big win.
Yeah. And there might be many more states that have grants associated to ergonomic or looking at ergonomics, and that's due to the cost of musculoskeletal disorders. So if you have a question about your state and you can't find the answer, please reach out. We will help look into it and make sure you have the information you need. So how would you implement um, a tool like AI to look at this? Really, what we would tell you to do is take a look at your high risk tasks and roles that you have and start there.
How do you identify those though?
Look at how many injuries you've had in the last couple of years and where those injuries are coming from a musculoskeletal, or even, quite frankly, you could go talk to your employees and find out what about their aches and pains and what they think it's coming from. And those would be the tasks to start with and the roles that you'd want to take a look at. Pilot test with a small team. Again, you're going to be looking at maybe one area, one job, one task, and integrate it from there. I can tell you that when I've met with safety committee members, they enjoy being able to get this instant information. Like, oh, that's why my back hurts, or oh, this is what we could do. So integrate that with your safety committee. Obviously, we have to communicate about privacy and making sure we're transparent to employees. There's a lot of concern about AI. However, we do have the tools available to be able to mask the person, to be able to mask the area, to ensure that we can help with that privacy piece, and making sure we are transparent about it. And then track your outcomes. Like Julie said, the best results come from the people that have done the initial assessment, maybe made a couple changes, and then we come back and do another assessment to see how that's going, and see how those changes are going to help you. I don't know about you, Julie, but I hear all kinds of things like, we can't do ergonomics. It costs too much money. There's too much time that we'd need to invest in it. My employees aren't going to be on board. I don't think we're up for all of the idea of what this looks like. How have you gotten through those in the past? I know I've had some situations.
Well, a big initiative or a big indicator is if your workers' compensation claims, when you look at the cost of those for surgeries, herniated disc, carpal tunnel surgery, that kind of thing, that is the biggest effect that it has is the financial effect. And like I say, the pain and outcome of somebody who has continual pain as a result of their job activities. So it's better to work on the prevention side and a lot cheaper. Okay. And also for morale and everything else, it's better to invest in it early on, implement those solutions and reduce those exposures.
Right. That's the same kind of thing I've heard. So if you can overcome those outcomes, those challenges, which I think most people at the end of the day can, this will pay for itself in the long run if you take a look at it. But think about what would be the one task or one job in your workplace you'd want to get analyzed tomorrow. So, you know, we get it. That this seems like a lot, but this is a very easy way for us to really get at that hazard and what can we do about it.
And I think the nice thing too, though, is yes, we're going through this webinar, which was an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Those assessments can be done very quickly with little interruption to your production process.
Right.
And the feedback can involve as many people as you need or as few people as you need till you get on board. So it appears because of all the slides and the reports and everything that it's a time consuming. It is not. And actually, it's really fun. I have a great time doing it. And it's a win-win for both when you can see what you're doing and help people feel better each and every day and go home the same way or better when they showed up.
Right. So just to recap, musculoskeletal disorders are costly, but 100% I think are preventable. AI ergonomics tools provide a consistent, objective data. You're not relying on us to see everything or any of the safety professionals to be able to, um, you know, make a mistake and not really get the best results. We are seeing real world results and with a reduction in strain and lost time injuries. And I think the future with AI and ergonomics is going to be more predictive, more proactive safety because we can see things that we might have missed in the past.
And one last comment I'd like to say too is we focused on a lot of production and construction. One big area where we're seeing obviously ergonomic injuries would be in your office environments, right? And so the tool also does an assessment for an office environment, which is really helpful. Same concept, but just wanted to let you know that that's also an available assessment with the tool that we have.
All right. So we'll open it up to questions here.
We do have a couple. We had one that asked about what are the next steps to come out and do an assessment, and if you guys would just talk about if people are interested in OECS helping them with that.
So you can reach our information is at the end, or you can call any one or either office in the Twin Cities or Fargo, and we can help get you set up to do that.
And what's nice about us though is it can be a la carte, right? It doesn't have to be all or nothing. We actually individually will talk about what the project scope is, and we can start small, right? So it could be a little investment early on that can pay dividends, and until you can allow your budget to figure that out. Basically, it is a cost-effective tool, and clients get a better, our existing clients that contact us will get a better opportunity or a better pricing structure there, but just it's not cost prohibitive for anyone. So just let you know we can start as small as we can and go as big as the project needs to be.
Thank you. There was another question about office furniture to help with static sitting due to the size of employees. Do you know of any vendors that have specialized furniture for a variety of sizes of people?
That is a great question. And I've worked with a lot of different office environments and that kind of thing. And one thing that I can stress is you want as much adjustability as we can get. Okay. So we want adjustable arms. We want adjustable lumbar support. We want an adjustable seat band for people who have longer legs. We want a height adjustment. I've seen people, there's several different companies. I mean, I've seen people buy ergonomic chairs. Usually reach out to local companies, but there's also a lot of folks that do refurb furniture, office furniture. So we could actually put you in touch with some that are in your local area, and I'm well aware of those. And what they did is I had one company that they wanted to buy all new furniture. It was a new company. So we had 3 different chairs they chose, and then they had them upholstered so that everything aesthetically worked within their environment, but you had 3 chairs to choose from for multiple. So there's a lot of different ways to do that. I've also seen there's other companies too that actually have discount office furniture from office closures and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of different opportunities there. And then basically before that discount furniture place does it, they actually steam clean all of the upholstery and that kind of thing. So that's a big thing, but there are cost-effective tools to be able to identify, but adjustability is the key.
So reach out to Julie and she will help you.
Yes, I will.
Sort that out. Are there any other questions?
That's all we've gotten so far in the chat.
All right.
And then one last question, though. We talked about the grant opportunities. That is something that we assist with as well, with helping completing and building a business case to justify that funding to get that grant. Okay, so that's something we can assist with as well. We want to give you free money.
Yes, yes, we do. All right, I'm not seeing any other questions, so let me launch this last poll. So please let us know what you thought of our webinar. Give us some feedback so that we can continue to make our webinars better and provide information that is supportive for your businesses. So thank you for doing that. We'll give you guys a few seconds here to fill that out. I did notice that I had to adjust how I was sitting in my chair as I was listening to you ladies. I was definitely hunching over, so I brought my shoulders down and back a little bit more.
See, it works. It works.
It does.
That's
We have to
good,
remind
Jen.
ourselves.
That's right.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and end that poll. I think we're done getting people coming in. So thank you very much for taking that poll for us. We appreciate your feedback very much. And as we mentioned, Connie and Julie's information is here on the screen. We'll leave it up for a few seconds here so people can take pictures or write that information down. But we've got 2 people who are very passionate about this, and like, yeah, Julie said, you know lots of vendors or can do some research on vendors and support companies.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's fun. It's fun to do. As I think the passion does show. Yeah. It's fun to help.
Absolutely.
It's fun to help people,
Yep.
you know,
Yeah.
not spend so much money either.
Yeah. That good balance.
We have a question just about sharing our presentation. We don't share the PowerPoint, but our YouTube channel and our website will have the recording available tomorrow. So please look for that. We'll be getting that recording up as quickly as possible. And then our next webinar is coming up on December 4th. Connie will be here again to talk about just the future of culture of continuous learning. And Connie, do you have anything else to add about this as you take a drink?
Sorry. It'll be a fantastic half an hour of discussing how to ensure you have a culture of growth in your company and really teaching the people whys behind things.
Absolutely. And we love learning here at OECS, and so we
Right.
want to help impart that to other companies as well. So look for us there. That information is available on our website already. And then just as you saw today, we are your total safety solution. So we have people who are interested in such a wide variety of topics that we want to support your company in being as safe as possible and helping your employees return home safely every day. So on the screen here, you see our general email that can get you to the right people, as well as the phone numbers for our Twin Cities office and our Fargo office. So please reach out if you have any questions. We're happy to help and find a solution for you. And then I think as we end, I just want to thank our partners once again. We really truly appreciate all that our partners do to help us get people home safe every day. And so thank you to TSSA, MPMA, SCSA, BIA of the Red River Valley, ABC, NRASP, Build Connection, and the Lake Area Manufacturing Alliance. We truly appreciate what our partners do to help us get our message out there. So with that, right at noon, that is all we've got for you. Thank you again, Connie and Julie, for sharing your knowledge and your passion. And if you guys have any questions, please reach out to Connie, Julie, myself, or our OECS offices, and we're happy to help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon.